Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass podcast. This for our UFC 307, Pereira versus Rountree. Producer Jared is on the sticks. Cody Saftik is on the line. Cody hit a PRP last night. Dana White Contender Series.
Really,
it was a 5. Hey, any good mo is mo that we will take at this point. Did all the favorites win? Yes. Did Cody have all the favorites? Yes. But like a couple of them were pick'ems, so congratulations to you for that. Won me some money last night. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll tell you something. So PFL last week went okay. UFC went really, really bad. And then Contender Series last night went good. So those are just the ebbs and flows of things. But yeah, the Contender Series, all 5 favorites. As you mentioned, a couple of them were close to pick them, but all 5 favorites won. And then people say, meh, you just took all the favorites. And then look at that Paris card. I chased a couple dogs, none of which wins. So sometimes the favorites are going to roll, Paul. In this instance, there's a couple dogs on this card that I like. So dogs will get going, but you can't hit them all the time. And a couple bad bounces, like that top ticket with Benoit. If Benoit wins, then we hit the first 2 lines and it ends up being a decent night overall. But he gets absolutely thrashed. But one's got to wonder, like it was a doctor stop. Okay, he gets thrashed in that first round. That second round, it wasn't like Joaquin was doing anything. Benoit's just wrecked, and he still almost wins the second round. Had it gone 5, his face is wrecked. He can't continue. But those are just the things that happen. How many times are you going to destroy a guy that bad in the first round that after the second, after nothing happens for 5 full minutes, they're like, yeah, we're done with this one. So MMA is just a crazy thing. Anything's going to happen. It was the wrong side. I can't make any excuses. Money Moicano looked good. If you were on that side of things, congratulations, man. It was a stellar pick. It was a stellar win. We'll see what moves on from them. But if I can get Benoit at a good price next time around, I'm still going to bet him. He's still got a cast iron chin, just like the Zaleski fight, his other loss before Poirier. He takes a thrashing, but at no point does the man quit. He still comes forward. He's still going to be aggressive. He's still only 28. Hopefully we get a good price on him the next time out. But man, that was a bad outing. Anyways, all that, it's in the past, including last night's Contender Series. All we can do moving forward is hope to hit some more winners. So this is a nice UFC 307 card. When we talk about pay-per-views, oftentimes they're fairly weak. And when you talk about women's women's title fights, they'll always sneak it on to a pay-per-view card, but they need a killer headliner. This, in my opinion, killer headliner. But they also give you Jose Aldo. They also give you Kayla Harrison. They give you Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, Joaquin Buckley on the prelims. This is a great offering, so kudos to the UFC.
100%. All right, let's get into the main event. We've got Alex Poatan Pereira taking on Khalil Rountree, minus 460 for the champ. The challenger Rountree can be had for plus 360. I'm not gonna lie, at no point like along the way, I mean the guy even retired. I never really thought Rountree was gonna get to a title fight. He's been on a great run and he deserves it. And obviously light heavyweight is a very, very weak division, particularly post John Jones. But yeah, I kind of surprised that he got here. If you told me like 5 years ago that he was going to fight in a title fight, I would have been like, what type of craziness happened in this division? I'm not going to really waste your time with too much of a breakdown on this one. I think it's very, very straightforward. Unless there's some tools in the shed that we haven't seen from Rountree. This should be a stand-up fight between 2 guys, and Rountree is priced for knockout or bust type of situation here. When it comes to credentials on the feet and credentials in the striking department, there's really nobody on the UFC roster that can match Alex Pereira. He's longer. His technique is obviously incredible. Rountree hits like a bus. Could it happen? Of course, Rountree could land an absolute nuke. He's made massive, massive improvements, don't get me wrong, but unless you have some wrestling to mix into this fight, I'm going to be struggling to pick any striker against Alex Pereira. So I'm not sure what to do with this fight from a betting perspective, but Pereira will be the pick.
Yeah, man, I love this fight. And I see a lot of people complaining, why is Rountree getting the title shot and what's going on here? And this shouldn't be happening. And they're acting like they don't like this fight, even though it's complete violence. Regardless of what happens, if Pereira wins, he's going to knock out Rountree. It'll be violent. If Rountree springs the upset, he's going to knock out Pereira. It's going to be violent. You mentioned Rountree mixing his wrestling. He's not going to. In like 13 UFC fights, he's never attempted one single takedown. That's not what he's here to do. He's here to party, right? Collect 50 Gs and go out on your shield if need be, or knock out this guy and become a global superstar and pick up a UFC title. So I personally love it. And again, people complaining about it. Okay. John Jones is the man. John Jones fights Alvin St.Preux for the UFC title. He fights Anthony Smith. He fights Alexander Gustafsson in the rematch nobody asked for. Well, they did because the first fight was dope, but that version of Gustafsson was so far gone. Nobody was clamoring for Gus to get another shot at it. He fought Thiago Santos, Dominic Reyes, and then he moves up and fights, whatever. That one was pretty cool. But what I'm saying is light heavyweight sucks, and it's always sucked. There's no challengers. So if you're going to tell me a guy that's going to stand and bang, he's on a 5-fight winning streak, he's won 4 of his last 5 fights by knockout, this guy's going to get the shot. You want to complain about it? What's there to complain about? Also, both these guys come from kickboxing and Muay Thai respectively. A sport of rematches. Everybody gets these rematches because you'll blast a guy and then they'll say, run it back. Why run it back? Because it's a striking game and anybody can catch anybody in the striking game. And Pereira knows this. He's had so many rematches in his kickboxing career. And then his most notable rematch being with Israel Adesanya, beats him in kickboxing, beats him in the UFC. They run the thing back a third time and he gets knocked out. So, yeah, when you're playing this very, very dangerous game of punchy-kicky and Pereira's 36 years old and he's been knocked out before, yeah, of course it's possible. Rountree's a big old ball of muscle who, again, has a high KO ratio, loves to stand and bang. And he doesn't have to worry about getting taken down either here, right? So, I mean, yeah, I'm in on that. Last point, obviously I'm taking Pereira. I'm just saying I love this fight. Last thing is that Gokhan Saki was the man. He was the best kickboxer, dude. He was legit at 205 pounds, and he would fight at heavyweight as well. Oh, man, Gokhan Saki was a problem. So eventually, there's no money in kickboxing, so he, just like other guys like Pereira and Adesanya and Simon Marcus, they'll come over to MMA, right? We'll talk about Cesar Almeida later. Everyone's kind of getting on this MMA bandwagon because it actually pays. In that instance, Gokhan Saki comes to the UFC, wins his debut, matched up with Khalil Rountree. He's 1-1 in MMA. He's the betting favorite against Khalil Rountree. And Rountree blasts his face off, first round KO, nasty work. Yeah, the guy's limited. Don't get me wrong. His cardio's not great. In a 5-round situation, that don't favor him. He quite literally only has a puncher's chance. But at least he has that. He's a proven puncher. So some guys are just long shots and everyone says puncher's chance. But it's like, well, he's got 3 knockouts and 12 wins. So yeah, everyone's got a puncher's chance, but his is like a diminished one. At least in Rountree's case, if you want to stand in front of him, it's going to be a problem. It's going to be a problem. So Pereira fights his ego here and stands right in front of him. It's going to be a problem. Pereira, low-key, is a BJJ black belt and trains with Glover Teixeira and has had Sean Strickland in the camp all with them all camp. So, like, well, why wouldn't Pereira take down Rountree? Yeah, that's the best path to victory for him as far as I'm concerned. At least try mixing it in. Try mixing it in. But if he goes out there and says, let's bang, then, I mean, it's everything's off the table. It's less than 5-1, so I'm going to take Alex Pereira here. If I did play him on the top ticket, possible, but if I did play him on the top ticket, 100% I got at least a small hedge out on the other side if I make it that far and I've got enough lines still intact, right? Because it's a pretty volatile fight. But I love it, man. So if you're complaining, give your head a shake. You're not a fan of the sport. This is what we want to see. And you beat this guy and fight another guy like this and another guy like this because it's going to be exciting. And at some point, someone will catch him. I don't think that Rountree does it. But if you're a Rountree backer, don't hide in the shadow. Like, be proud of yourself. Like, this guy can go out there and get the job done in this certain situation. But yeah, he's like the number 9th guy taking on the champion. So I'm not taking Rocky Balboa over Apollo Creed. Maybe if he caught him later on in life, but this first meeting, it's got to go the way of the champ.
Yeah, I mean, Rountree, if you go through like his UFC record, obviously there's ups and downs, ebbs and flows, but one thing that kind of shows up consistently is just his knockdown rate. And of course, Alex Pereira is an absolute stud, but Israel Adesanya caught him. Israel Adesanya, maybe a better technician, but I wouldn't put his power anywhere in the same realm as Khalil Rountree. So yeah, Rountree's 100% live to pull off the massive upset here, but we're both picking the champ to retain. We move on to the co-main event. We got Raquel, Rocky Pennington taking on Julianna Pena. Rocky is a -170 favorite. Pena can be had for +150. Who do you got here, bud?
Yeah, I mean, it's a confusing one. It's women's MMA. It's a championship fight. It's 5 rounds. You can see it going either way. I would like to just say it's one of those dogger pass type spots for me, but yeah, it really isn't. I think I got to go with Rocky Pennington ever so slightly. The thing with Pena is she's been officially off for a little over 2 years now. And so she's done this once before, right? This girl was an absolute wrecking machine. I mean, early on her pro career, not great, but eventually gets on the Ultimate Fighter, wins the Ultimate Fighter, starts running through the ranks, beats Kat Zingano, which was a big deal at that time, and then runs into Valentina Shevchenko. Now, if you remember that fight, she wins the first round against Valentina Shevchenko and is fighting excellent. And then, boom, gets caught in that unfortunate armbar, loses. But again, Julianna Pena is going to go on to be something special. But then she takes 2 years off. I believe, I don't know if it was a kid or an injury, one or the other. But she takes 2 years off. She comes back from that 2 year long layoff against Nico Montano. Now, Nico Montano, also an Ultimate Fighter winner, the inaugural 125-pound champ in the UFC, forced to move up to 35 because she can't actually make 125, and gets a returning Pena. And Pena is very flat in that fight. Got taken down 3 times by Nico Montano. Overall does not look good, but does win the fight. Her very next fight against Germaine de Randamie, she's flat again. She does probably win the first 2 rounds, but she's running on fumes. She ends up getting caught in a guillotine choke by Germaine de Randamie, of all people. I think it's her only submission win. Accredited kickboxer submits Julianna Pena. So a lot to me was that even though she's very talented, she's aggressive, that she's not in form, right? She needs a couple starts. You know how it is. We got a DOP racehorse on the go right now. Takes a couple starts before you start getting in shape and you're ready to go. Off that layoff, I didn't see it. Then she ends up beating Sarah McMahon. She beats Amanda Nunes. She rematches Amanda Nunes, and it proves that, she was not, in fact, a better fighter. But now you're getting another 2 year long layoff. So she's coming back. She's 36 years old. She's older. She's had a lot of injuries. She has a family now. She does have some money. So it's not like fighting is the end all be all for her. I just don't know how good of shape that she's going to go out there and try to get things done. Raquel Pennington, meanwhile, she's on a solid winning streak. And one thing about her is that she's very physical in the clinch. She can most definitely fight 3 or 5 rounds, need be. And she's very, very tough to put away. Look at all of her losses, right? She split decision loss to Jessica Andrade, split decision loss to Holly Holm, knocked out by Amanda Nunes. It's midway through the 5th round. And after the 4th, she sits on her corner. She looks at her corner and she says, or sits on the stool, looks at her corner and she says, I'm done. I'm done. And they're like, no, you're not done. Go out there. You can still win. She's like, no, I'm done. The corner pushes her out. And then she gets TKO'd in the 5th. So mentally, she was broken in that fight. Only time she's been finished. She ends up going the distance with Germaine de Randamie in a loss, again with Holly Holm. And then she's hit this nice little 6-fight winning streak. So my thing with Pena is that Pena seems to be one of these wily, comes at you wild fast, tries to get the quick takedown fast, tries to land this big ground and pound fast, and then hopefully hook up the neck. She did beat Amanda Nunes when Nunes tired in that fight. But in my mind, Pena is usually the one that's going too hard too early and tends to fatigue. You give me an older version of her on a 2 year long layoff, I don't think she's 5-round ready, especially not in her first fight returning. Raquel Pennington, meanwhile, she can. She just went 5 rounds with Marina Bueno Silva. She got taken down 3 times in that fight. There was some submission attempts in that fight. Her grappling looked stellar. She herself got a takedown of her own. But beyond that, she kept getting back up and she bopped her up to the sum of 134 significant strikes to 69. Ketlen Vieira, that fight as well, outlands her 81 to 64. Her fight with Iasmin Ladd puts up 114. Her fight with Marion Renault back in the day, 107. She's got volume. She's got consistency. She can fight 5 rounds. She's very, very durable. If Pena doesn't get a quick finish in the first 3 rounds, and this thing's at worst 2-1 Pena after 3, I feel like Pennington just pushes her up against the cage, works the body, doesn't give her no space to operate, constantly comes forward, breaks her down, probably picks up the unanimous decision. So I will take Raquel Pennington. If I want to improve this price tag, well, I take Raquel Pennington by decision. She's a decision girl. Let's give her that. And Pena's tough enough, but Pena 2 year long layoff and tends to, she got dropped 3 times by Amanda Nunes in that last fight. Everything that landed flush crumpled her to the canvas. So I'm not actually that confident her 2 year long layoff coming off that it's for sure goes the distance. So maybe don't get greedy with that. But in my opinion, my pick's going to be Raquel Pennington.
Yeah, same here. The only concerns that I have, if you go through Rocky's Instagram, 7 weeks ago, she said quick procedure, then on to a healthy fight camp. She's in she's in the hospital, had some sort of work done, always climbing and conquering the mountains. I think that's the real key for her in a 5-round fight. against Pena, 2-year layoff, trains in Chicago. It's like, don't forget, we're in Utah. We're in Salt Lake City. It's like 4,200 feet altitude. Not as high as Denver, but enough that it would probably affect it'll definitely affect your cardio. It seems like she lives like that kind of life. She lives in Colorado. She's always out there hiking and stuff like that. The only concern I have about her is like, what was this quick procedure? 7 weeks is a little bit sketchy to be, turning it around super quick. But yeah, 2-year layoff for Pena, and her wrestling's okay, her grappling's okay, but yeah, I mean, getting subbed by Jermaine Durandamy. I was thinking like, Pennington gets that bulldog choke that she likes, but the Pennington by sub,
happen, dude.
It could happen, but like Pennington by subs only plus 450. Like it's way shorter than I was gonna hope for in that type of situation. So I'm with you. It's probably Pennington by decision. Doesn't seem like a spot that I would really get too greasy and try to grab a prop with. We got Mario Bautista taking on Jose Aldo. Mario Bautista minus 130 favorite. Aldo could be had for plus 110. I took Aldo last time out against Jonathan Martinez, and he was like a plus 150 underdog there. Looked great. The big key about that fight, Cody, was that we were in Brazil. The king of Brazil is going to have the fans behind him. He's going to have everything behind him going into that fight. And he showed up and showed out. Now that like this is close to a pick'em here, I've liked Mario Bautista all along the way. He's showing massive improvements in his game. And I think he can out-volume Jose Aldo. Could he get starstruck? 100%. I think it's going to be a little bit less likely to get starstruck when you're in the cage in Utah, where Aldo's going to always have fans there, but it's not like it's like a home game, I think at minus 130, I haven't bet it yet, but Bautista definitely has my interest and potentially my money. What's your take here?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go Jose Aldo. Aldo, again, one of these guys, lots of backlash, a former decorated champion. And anytime you can get him at plus money, okay, it's worth a shot.
You took Martinez last time. In Brazil.
In Rio. How stupid am I? I know. But to me personally, what he proved in that fight is that he does in fact still got it. And I know what you're saying is that it was in Rio and the crowd was behind him, but it wasn't like he needed that. It wasn't like it was a close decision and he needed that crowd and he needed the hometown bump. He absolutely destroyed J-Mar, right? And Martinez was a slick striker that was faster than him and younger than him and supposed to do some damage. But Jose Aldo came out there and he was throwing leg kicks again. And he was moving again. And he had his boxing going again. And I just thought to myself, you know what? Aldo's a guy that you can never really count out. You can if he's fighting for the world title. If he's fighting Peter Yan, if he's fighting Alexander Volkanovski, he's fighting Max Holloway. Maybe he's not there anymore. But if you want to give him these up-and-coming guys, like he is the greatest gatekeeper of all times. He will guard that top 5 for you to no on end. And I kind of think that this is a spot where he might go out there and do that. Now, with Mario Bautista, I'm a fan. Always been a fan. You know that. I like this kid. He can grapple well out of MMA lab in Arizona. Great camp. He strikes well. He's very fast. Striking, I wouldn't say reminds me of Jonathan Martinez, but again, he's more dynamic. He's faster. He's got all these good things going for him against Jose Aldo. But from a matchmaking standpoint, and I do a lot of matchmaking, you can build up a guy to look good. And in this case, I think that's a prime example. Look at Mario Bautista, right? He gets knocked out by Trevin Jones. That's his last loss. It's 3 years ago. But all the same, he got knocked out by Trevin Jones, who's currently 13-11. So Jose Aldo, it's on the table that he could knock you out. All the same, let's put it aside. They give him Jay Perrin. Free little win. Jay Perrin's never won in the UFC. They give him Brian Keller. Brian Keller, massive neck surgery, currently on a 4-fight losing streak. I believe he's been released, or at least retired. Benito Lopez, he's no longer on the roster. A 42-year-old Guido Canetti. You know Guido. Yeah, okay. So none of these 4 wins really mean anything. The Damon Blackshear fight, right? Damon Blackshear outstruck him 90-79 and took him down 4 times. Bautista, meanwhile, landed the better shots. He ended up winning the last 2 rounds, I believe. He also got 2 takedowns of his own. But Bautista went 2 for 10 on takedowns with Damon Blackshear. So if you're not getting takedowns consistently against Blackshear, in fact, he took you down 4 times, I can't rely that you are going to take down Jose Aldo. Also, you one time got knocked out by Trevin Jones, so I can't rely on you taking a shot from Jose Aldo. And between Brian Kelleher, Jay Perrin, Benito Lopez, Guido Canetti, Damon Blackshear, none of those guys are near Jose Aldo, nor are those guys strikers. None of those guys are strikers. None of those guys are good strikers. It's apples to oranges. And then he beats Ricky Simón his last fight. He looked good in that fight. But how much of it was that he looked good? And how much of it was that Ricky Simón looked awful? He just wasn't even trying to wrestle. He just stood there the whole time, bobbing, using his little T-Rex arms to miss the target over and over. So complacent. That's the end of Ricky. I bet Ricky that night. I'm sitting there, second round on. I'm like, he is mentally checked out. Now he's on a 2-fight losing streak. I don't know what his plan is, but Ricky's best days are long behind him. So yeah, you can't say a guy on a 6-fight winning streak is not impressive, but the 6-fight winning streak is 4 guys that have been released, a win over Damon Blackshear, a really close fight, and then a checked out Ricky Simón. That's the 6-fight winning streak. You look at Jose Aldo, meanwhile, he just smoked Jamar his last time out. Prior to that, the Merab Dvalishvili fight, he had Merab rocked. Merab went 0 for 16 on takedowns. 0 for 16 on takedowns. So Merab's not taking you down. I don't see Mario Bautista taking you down. Let's be real. If you can rock Merab, boom, like that, I don't know. I don't know that Mario Bautista takes that same punch. Prior to that, he's got a win over Rob Font, very impressive, dropped him twice. A win over Pedro Munoz, where he outstruck him 114-75. You know, I like Pedro Munoz, very talented fighter. And prior to that, he beat Marlon Vera in a pretty close fight that could have probably gone either way. But veteran move in the 3rd round to take his back and take the, put in the body triangle and say sayonara after a 1-1 start after 2. So he's plus money. It's Jose Aldo. It's by far the best guy Mario Bautista's ever fought. It's by far the worst guy. I wouldn't say that. That's a lie. It's one of the worst guys that Jose's ever fought in a long time. Yeah, and then the last but not least, but we're talking about a lot of 40-year-olds on this card. There's a bunch of old fighters on this card, right? But Aldo's 38. You forget that because he made his WEC debut at 21, made his pro MMA debut at 17. He can't fight 3 times a year anymore. But when they space him out and they give him this good selective matchmaking, he's still got a little magic. They should reserve him for big shows in Rio, but they're choosing to put him at altitude because he's got a history of fighting 5-round fights. I'm okay with him at 3 rounds. Bautista, I don't expect to gas either for the record, but I just don't think it'll be an issue for Aldo. Anyways, I'll take Jose Aldo.
We should do a shoey bet on this one.
I'm in. I'll take it.
It's close to a pick. There's disagreement here. It'll make it interesting. I don't know if I'm going to, you make some good points. About, but I mean, this matchup, like the Merab matchup, I don't even think about it the same way because, I mean, Jose Aldo is a brick wall when it comes to takedown defense. It's going to come down to, if Bautista wins this fight, it's going to come down to volume, like just out voluming Jose Aldo, but he's going to have to put himself through some danger to break in through the pocket. Just hanging out at boxing range is going to be, I don't know if that's a fight that Mario Bautista can win. So it'll be super, super interesting. Either way, we move on down. We've got the biggest favorite on the card, Kayla Harrison taking on Ketlen Vieira. Minus 1,200 is the current line on the former PFL champ. Ketlen Vieira could be had for plus 750. I thought it was okay like yesterday being Tuesday, or maybe it was Monday. I think I made these boards on Monday and it was like plus 650. I'm like, all right, that's like Kayla Harrison's a decent parlay piece there. Like I like her to get the job done. She's obviously been in 5-round fights, so altitude for 3 rounds is not going to be too big of a concern. Her wrestling and her grappling is obviously world class. Now we're at like minus 1,200. It's getting a little bit dicey because, I mean, at the end of the day, Harrison went out there against Larissa Pacheco, had a bad performance, ended up losing. So it's like now we're at this price, we're starting to get, I think, into the range of outcomes where it's like maybe she isn't as good as we thought she was. I think Harrison goes out there and wins. The biggest problem for me with Ketlen Vieira is that like she's shown like some cardio issues in plenty of her fights before, so you bring her up to altitude now in a fight that's probably going to be grapple heavy. I don't really like how her game suits for that type of situation. For me, it's going to be a straight up pass. Kayla Harrison will be the pick. Curious to see, like, maybe when during your breakdown, I can figure out if there's like a prop I can attack here, a total, something like that. But I mean, you know me, minus 1,200 never really makes my tickets.
Yeah, minus 1,200, I don't recommend it. I mean, I would recommend it if it was like, I don't know, a regional show promotion where it was like, this is a walk in the park. But at the UFC level, especially, Ketlen Vieira is not exactly an easy fight. Minus 1,200 for a women's MMA bout, that's largely going to be two grapplers going in there against each other, or, you know, Ketlen trying to stuff the takedowns and keep it standing. I don't love it. And when you got a minus 1,200, you got to look at like, well, okay, well, what could possibly go wrong? And this is the only thing that I could see possibly going wrong. Thing number one is the 92% takedown defense for Ketlen Vieira. Like, she doesn't traditionally really get taken down all that much, and I'm picking Kayla Harrison. I think Kayla Harrison will get her down, but you got to really assume that Kayla Harrison's this special judo talent, you know, judo gold medalist, and everybody she fights, she takes down. She looks so good in her last fight. I get that, but you have seen her a few times in the PFL at least struggle to get some takedowns. And if she's not getting them and she's forced to stand, like, I don't know that her stand-up is quite refined enough. That like trilogy match she had with Larissa Pacheco. Pacheco was this big, strong, bruising Brazilian, finally figured out how to stuff some of these takedowns, and then was eventually able to go out there and just outlast her, beat her in the striking exchanges, cause these takedown attempts to get less and less effective, and then less frequent, and then win the decision. So at minus 1,200, it's not just like a straight up, she's going to take her down on her first takedown attempt, get on top of her and smash her, just like she did in her last fight. It'll probably be met with a little bit more resistance. When you look at the only two girls to take down Ketlen Vieira, it would be Miesha Tate, which is a former UFC champion, and Sarah McMahon, who's an Olympic silver medalist in freestyle wrestling. So both credible wrestlers, both good level of opponent. They were able to take her down, and for the most part, not really able to do much with it. So the reason I'm big on Kayla Harrison, and I think she's going to do really well, I'm picking her, but at minus 1,200, it's not on the top ticket. It's not even on the second ticket. This is a women's MMA fight that I do expect to be relatively close. The reason I'm taking her is because in the PFL, you couldn't elbow. She's fighting these tournament bouts. So she gets these takedowns. She gets on top of her opponent. She constantly has to make room and make separation to reach up and punch, right? Because you're not allowed to risk the cuts and blah, blah, blah. You know the rule.
Yep.
So now that she's in the UFC, she gets the takedown, she sets up shop in half guard, and she just mauls on you. You've seen it her last time out. It was very, very impressive work against Holly Holm, who's a very, very high level, you know, again, another former champion, another girl that's gone a long way to improve her own defensive wrestling and her own wrestling abilities. To be able to just go out there, take her down, and then smash her with some ground and pound. I think that Kayla Harrison does still have a high ceiling, and the shape that she came in that Holly Holm fight, incredible. But that's the last concern that I do have here is at least wait until the weigh-ins. This price really can't get that much worse, I don't think. But at least see, Kayla Harrison's a girl that's fought at 155. She was fighting in the PFL where she was like the queen at 145. UFC's not offering these divisions. So now she's forced to come down to 135 pounds. And although she's made it, how much does that take out of her? She's not exactly a young fighter. It's a big weight cut. People are accusing her of steroids for no other reason than there's clearly a scientific team behind her, not necessarily cheating, but just putting money and resources into getting her down to the dime as healthy as possible. Most fighters don't have access to that kind of funding, but because it's Kayla Harrison and she's already a millionaire fighter, she does. So if she comes on the scale and she's not looking pristine, it is at altitude. And she might have a great first round. If she takes her down, she smashes her with those elbows, Ketlen Vieira. But if Ketlen can make her work, make her shoot 2, 3, 4 takedowns, really make her, you know, exhaust some energy, this thing gets to a second round. She can make the second round a lot more competitive. In the third round, Kayla's exhausted from a tough weight cut. The Holly Holm fight, she just routes her in one round. You don't see her in the second and the third. And you certainly didn't see her in a second or a third at altitude. Whereas, yeah, Ketlen Vieira went 5 rounds against Miesha Tate. I can't say her cardio is terrible, right? I think she should be able to go at least a little more proven. So if you're sitting at home thinking to yourself, man, it's a minus 1,200. Why are you making all these points for the other side? It's simply for the fact that don't go change your mortgage and put everything you own on a Kayla Harrison pick because this is a complete walk in the park. Altitude makes it interesting. A tough weight cut makes it interesting. Ketlen Vieira's historical, decent takedown defense makes it interesting. And then that's it. Outside of that, we all expect Kayla to go out there, get the takedown, smash her. But there are a few what ifs. And I don't like what ifs when I'm betting that kind of number. In a women's MMA fight, what could possibly go wrong? What's the biggest upset in women's MMA history? Oh, Maria Agapova, who was a hot prospect at the time, taking on Shayna Dobson. No one's ever said hot or prospect in the same sentence with this girl ever. And she springs the upset. So you know how the CF dot model works. It can and will happen. But yeah, for me personally, we got to play every play here or every fight. It's Harrison. But when you said pass, that's not a bad call either.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED lights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. All right, we move on down. We've got Kevin Holland taking on Roman Dolidze. Kevin Holland, a minus 140 favorite. Dolidze can be had for plus 120. I know Holland was like out there last time fighting at 185 pounds against Mikey O, but before that he was doing a little run at 170 pounds. He's 6'3", long reach, but up against Dolidze, a guy who's kind of went half and half in between light heavyweight and middleweight. I worry about the physicality aspect of this fight for Kevin Holland. If he just fights at range, uses that long reach, he can. But anytime with Kevin Holland, just like when he's chalk, I have big time concerns. I bet at plus 140. I bet a little bit of Dolidze a couple days ago. I just think he can make this a little bit ugly. Maybe holds it up against the cage. He's shown in some fights, obviously his last time out, he put up 100 significant strikes, which can, against Anthony Smith, got a unanimous decision victory. Weight cut is probably always going to be a bit of a concern for him, but I just think, physically, it's like don't fight way out at kicking and where only Holland's jab can hit you. It's like he's got to close the pocket, use his strength and physicality in this fight, which I think is very much in play. He's got good enough jiu-jitsu if this fight goes to the mat that Holland, even though he's got, some crafty submission skills and stuff, I don't think he's going to sub Roman Dolidze. I think Dolidze is a dog with a shot here, and he may have to make it not the most pretty fun fight, but I think he's got in his tool bag. What's your take here?
Yeah, it's not a bad take. I'm actually going to go with Kevin Holland. I agree with a lot of your points, actually. The fact that he's coming down from 205 to 185 and Holland's coming kind of up from 170 to 185, I do expect there to be a size difference, or at least not a size difference. Holland's taller, longer reach, but just, that physicality, the actual strength to it. My thing is I'm struggling to find out what Roman Dolidze actually does well. He came into the UFC as a BJJ black belt. He had won some decent little ADCC qualifier type tournaments. But for the most part, he's not really using his grappling in the UFC. He tries every now and again. It's just not having a whole lot of success. He's given up takedowns to John Allen. He got taken down by Trevin Jones. He got taken down 3 times by Leonardo Staropoli. Overall, his takedown defense is 33%. His takedown offense is 40%. So he very much struggles to get these fights to the ground. Now, he goes on this little run, right, where he knocks out Kyle Daukaus. And then the very next fight, first round knockout over Phil Hawes. Both guys have since been released from the promotion. And then he knocks out Jack Hermanson, that being the nice one. That throws him into top 15 competition. A win over Jack Hermanson puts you in the conversation of fringe contender. So now he's having to fight the better guys. But outside of just clipping a couple no longer on the roster guys in the first round, the wrestling's not quite there. He's not utilizing his BJJ because he can't often get these fights to the ground. And he marches forward and he throws big punches. So if you're chinny or you're not that good, he could possibly catch you. But if you can extend him, that's where he has trouble. His fight with Marv, you mentioned he landed 100 significant strikes in his last fight against Anthony Smith. And that's a career high for him. But prior to that, he's not landing a lot of punches in the vast majority of these fights. His fight with Marvin Vettori, right? That's his first loss after the Giles fight, whatever. 3 fights back. He gets outstruck 106-71, right? He's coming forward in the first round. He's trying to mix it up, but he's a little bit brawlish, right? If you got footwork, if you can just move on him, if you can stick that jab, he's walking into punches. Her hands are fairly low, but he's just constantly making you backpedal. It's not like Holland doesn't fight good off his back foot, but he's going to have to fight off his back foot for the majority of it. But Vettori does. Vettori's mostly a block type fighter himself, but he outlands him is what I'm saying. His next fight with Imavov, that fight's a 5-round fight, 25 minutes. In 25 minutes, he landed 34 significant strikes. The fight was 100% on the feet. He never took Imavov down once. Imavov hadn't taken him down. He was just largely able to just beat him to the punch with volume from the outside. A long guy like Holland, who's 1 inch taller, has a 5-inch reach advantage. And yeah, he's coming up from 170 to 185. He could be way faster. So he's just going to pop that jab, pop those kicks, move. Cause this guy to constantly be coming at you. In the apex, it's dangerous because this little Georgian bull might be able to get a hold of you. But in a large cage, in a large arena setting, I feel like Holland could be able to just backpedal and play from the outside. The 33% takedown defense, Holland could actually, in fact, take him down, where Holland's also a BJJ black belt. Holland's got a bunch of sneaky little wins. You know, he's got a submission win over Michael Chiesa with the Dars choke. Like, the guy gets a hold of your neck, it's going to be a problem. I'm not saying he submits Dolidze, but I'm saying he's got multiple passive victory in that he can win this thing standing. Might be able to mix in the takedown and try to go for the submission. The last point I guess I would say is like maybe Dolidze tries to take Holland down. Because how do you beat Holland? You take him down, right? But he took Anthony Smith down once on 3 attempts. Holland, meanwhile, low key, has not been taken down in his last 5 fights. He's not been taken down in the last 3 years. And the last time in 2 years, it was against Chimaev. Since then, obviously, Ponzinibbio, Stephen Thompson, Michael Chiesa, Jack Maddalena, Michael Page, Mikey O. Most of them aren't exactly wrestling quality, but for the most part, he's worked a lot on his wrestling. So, yeah, I just think Holland's faster. Holland's got more volume. He's put up 127 significant strikes landed on Jack Della Maddalena. You want to go and just soundly, not outstrike, you lost the fight, but you want to go out there and put on a hell of a performance like that, outstrike a very credible striker. I'm okay with you going and putting significant... The guy's landed 100 significant strikes once. Dolidze has done it once. Holland, he's done it a few times. He put up 119 against Stephen Thompson. He lost the Stephen Thompson fight because he was just like, you know what? I'm tired of taking you down. Let's stand up some more and fight some more. But had a ton of success. Was mixing in the wrestling. He's taken down better guys than Dolidze. Has outstruck better guys than Dolidze. So at minus 145, yeah, I don't mind it. I'll take him.
All right, let's move on. We've got Joaquin Buckley taking on the aforementioned Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Joaquin Buckley, a -2 under favorite. Thompson could be had for plus 170. I mean, I feel like the key here is just the adjustments, improvements that Joaquin Buckley has made. Obviously, Buckley used to fight at 185 pounds. He made the trek down to 170, and there he seems to be a completely different fighter. Obviously, he's incredibly physically gifted. And I think the real thing that it comes down to is like that fight last time out against Nursultan Ruziboev, the 4 takedowns, the top control time. It's just like fighting Stephen Wonderboy Thompson at range. It's like even at Wonderboy's age, I mean, just ask Kevin Holland. It's like if you're fighting at range against this guy, you're going to have a bad time. It's just like he's so quick still, so technically sound. He's so swift of foot. He's hard to hit. You mix those, I mean, the absolute recipe for beating this guy historically, Bilal Muhammad, Gilbert Burns, those are obviously the 2 most recent ones. The key is that wrestling, and I would be hard-pressed to pick Joaquin Buckley in this spot if I didn't see that last performance against Nursultan Ruziboev. It's the exact same performance he needs to have here. Go in there. And, the crowd's going to want you to stand at range and kickbox with the kickboxer or the karate guy. But you stick to that game plan that you had against Ruziboev last time out. I see Joaquin Buckley getting his hand raised. So Buckley by decision? What do you think?
Yeah, I'm actually going to agree with that. The crazy thing about fighting is just like the older you get, you can still do it. You can still do it for a long time. And they always say power is the last thing to go. And you got that puncher's chance. But speed, Sorry, a little bit sick today. I know Paul's a little bit sick today too. His voice is all messed up.
Well,
Must be a Canadian thing.
sick is a relative term.
You're partied out.
I was
sick.
partied out.
Or
2 days ago, I had zero voice, like absolutely nothing.
good
So I'm like
recovery.
70% all the way back.
So power's the last thing to go. Speed is the first thing to go. And Wonderboy Thompson's game is predicated on his speed, is to be able to just jump inside, outside of the pocket. You know, he fights with his hands low, but his ability to just dart out of way and counterpunch has just been top notch for the vast majority, if not the entirety of his career. But at some point, that speed's not quite there. Those reflexes aren't quite there. He has been touched up before. He has been knocked out before. It's not as if he's completely invincible. You can get to the target. And the older that he gets and the more that he continues to compete, I just don't see it getting any better for him. Mixing in the takedowns, that's always going to be the key because you outlined it 100%. They wrote the book on how to beat Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and it's take him down. And everybody that's followed that game plan has largely had a lot of success. His defensive grappling hasn't been able to improve all that much. Again, he is who he is, which is a dynamic striker. And if you book him against straight up strikers, he can have a lot of success still, but it's just going to be diminished. What Buckley brings to the table is two things. One, he's got more than enough punching power to knock out Stephen Wonderboy Thompson clean if he catches him. But he can mix in the wrestling, and I absolutely do believe that. The Ruzaboa fight, as Paul also outlined, the 4 takedowns, that's going to be key. But he's also been mixing in takedowns in a lot of these fights. You know, even going back to, say, the Abdul Razak Al Hassan fight, where he takes him down 5 times against a BJJ black belt and a big, thick ox of a man. He's able to take down guys oftentimes. You mentioned he fought at 185 pounds, and he's been able to score takedowns there as well. So at 170 pounds, I'm very confident that he can take down Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. At 170 pounds, I'm very confident that he could just catch him with like a lunging left hook. Or, you know, the guy's got a craziest win in knockout win in UFC history over Impa Kasanganay. He could knock out anybody. Will that exact same kick land against Wonderboy? Absolutely not. But could something land? Yeah, we know that because he's so short, he generally does come forward, and that does play into Wonderboy's hands. But at some point, you are going to hit the cage. Big cage or not, big venue or not, at some point when you're backpedaling, you're going to come to the end, right? At some point when you're nearly 42 years old and your speed and your reflexes and your judgment is just a slight hair off, is when Buckley catches you. So I think he's live for the knockout. I think he's live to just take him down and grind one out. If I'm a Wonderboy backer, it's that Wonderboy has to play into Buckley's ego and be like, you think you're some great striker, then strike with me, and really, really cause him to just strike. But if Buckley strikes and wrestles, I think he has a lot of success here. So I got Buckley as well. Minus 200, don't love it, but at the same time, yeah, he's the rightful pick and he's the rightful favorite.
Yeah, and let's be honest, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson is way too nice of a guy to try to like irk somebody into fighting with their ego. He just doesn't do that. I mean, that's why, you know, he's probably the nicest guy that's ever been in the UFC. Just a good fella, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. But yeah, the wrestling, the making it, you know, not a kickboxing match is going to be key for Buckley here. Unless Cody, that matchmaker is in his ear being like, if
That's
you
what
actually,
saying.
that's where it gets at minus 200 gets a little bit dicey. Because yeah, if this is a kickboxing fight, oof, I wouldn't feel too. If Joaquin Buckley after round 1 shoots 0 takedowns, I'll be looking in the live market to see if Thompson is worth a scoop at that price. But
keep in mind this too with Buckley, right? The guy wins a fight, he grabs the microphone, it's his one little moment to say something intelligent, and he calls out Conor McGregor. But if you go out and you get a Stephen Wonderboy Thompson fight, it's a nice consolation prize, if we're being honest with you. It's the featured prelim, that's a little weak, but I don't know why the Kevin Holland fight was not the featured prelim, but all the same. It's a sweet little spot here. If you go down and you take him down and you grind him up against the cage, you hold him down, you're never in a million years getting no Conor McGregor fight. If you go out there and you blast Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, you pick up a 50G KO in the night bonus and the place erupts and you grab the mic and you say, Conor McGregor, you're next. And Conor McGregor's busted out on cocaine in a back room somewhere. He might say yes. But then he'll probably ice you for a year and the fight never materializes. But that puts you in a position to get those kind of fights. Mm-hmm. Taking them down doesn't really do all that much for you. And he's very vocal. He's very loud on Instagram. He's got a lot of haters. And the UFC's given him a golden opportunity to have a great fight. If he holds him down and he doesn't do much with it, it's like it's wasted. Torrance Finney last night, Contender Series. If he just takes him down and doesn't do anything with that position, he's screwed, man. He's screwed. Like there's nothing beyond it. He takes it and he smashes him. Buckley needs to take him down and smash him, but taking him down and holding him down, probably not it. And I don't know that he necessarily smashes Wonderboy down on the ground as much as I think he could get takedowns mixed in with his striking, wins a fight. If he just goes out there not dog hunting, but bonus hunting, throwing caution to the wind, trying to get a KO, then in that scenario, he's at least giving Wonderboy his path of victory, is still presentable. It's still an option. If you take him down, path of least resistance, but because he has such a large ego and mouth, and I don't know, I could see it happening, I suppose, if he fights like an idiot. But if he fights like his potential and his skill set, I think he wins. And you're in agreement as well.
Yeah. We have Iasmin Lucindo taking on Marina Rodriguez, minus 170 for Iasmin Lucindo. Rodriguez could be out for plus 150. Your thoughts?
Yeah, this one comes down to back class. It's like the poor man's version of the Jose Aldo fight. It's just there's a lot more back class on Marina Rodriguez, and she's slight underdog, you said?
Yeah, man, plus 150. More than a slight.
Yeah, it's more than a slight. It's plus 150. One, we got women's MMA, which we've already discussed. It's pretty chaotic scene to say the least. But when you look at Iasmin Lucindo, she's 22 years old. Like, she's very young and she's still very much green. She needs to build her way up, and this is a fair fight for her. But to say she's a 2-1 favorite seems a little bit much. She lost to Iasmin Ihor in her debut. That one didn't age well.
No.
And in fact, lost a decision. Got outstruck soundly. Nobody's arguing it. Her next fight's Brogan Walker. Mid-30s, never made it at MMA, Muay Thai fighter. She takes her down 4 times, but does not finish her. Doesn't land above 53 significant strikes. It's not a great performance. Her next fight's Polyana Vieira. You know my opinions on this one, Paul. But subs Polyana Vieira, and till that point, relatively close fight. And then her last time out against Karolina Kowalkiewicz. That's a nice performance because it's a name, aged veteran, but she takes her down twice. That's her key to victory, is the takedowns. When you look at Karolina, her fight prior, she had been taken down twice by Diana Belbita. She had been taken down by Jessica Pena. She got taken down by Michelle Waterson twice. And what I'm getting at is Karolina Kowalkiewicz has a history of not exactly having great defensive wrestling. Grappling's pretty okay, but her defensive wrestling has just never really been up to snuff. So I wouldn't say she's been fed an easier route, but she's got a win over Brogan Walker, Polyana Vieira, and then an aged, at the end of the road, retired Karolina Kowalkiewicz. That's it. Marina Rodriguez, meanwhile, she's had a lot of ups and downs. Similar to Khalil Rountree type, she's lost a bunch of fights. She's won a bunch of fights. When you look at her losses, I mean, Cynthia Calvillo, Carla Esparza, Amanda Lemos, Verna Jandaroba, Jessica Andrade, that last one was a split decision for the record. Like, she only loses to the creme de la creme. She's very competitive in most of her fights. Her defensive grappling is also her issue, and that does present an opportunity for Lucindo. But Lucindo's taking down girls like Brogan Walker, whereas Marina Rodriguez is actually stuffing takedowns against credible opposition. Jessica Andrade in her last fight took her down, but it's Jessica Andrade. Girl like Michelle Waterson, Verna Jandaroba, again, it's like I can see them mustering up takedowns, but I don't think just anybody goes out there and takes her down at will. What she needs to do in this fight is land those bigger shots. She's actually got 2 knockout wins in the UFC, which at this division means a lot. She's got her win on the Contender Series, also a knockout. For the division, she's considered one of the heavier hitters, Marina Rodriguez. She's got solid striking. Her defensive grappling's always been an issue, so it's something that she's actively working on. She's coming off a split decision loss to Andrade. Before that, went the distance with Verna Jandaroba. Went to the 3rd round, at least with Amanda Lemos, before getting caught. That being the only time she's ever been finished. She's durable. She's given up multiple takedowns to Carla Esparza and Cynthia Calvillo, 2 credible wrestlers. But again, all of that's just a body of work. You fought in better level of opposition. You fought in former world champions and former world title challengers. You've stuffed takedowns. You've been takedown occasionally. You've won some fights. You lost some fights. But it amounts to something. Now, she's getting a little bit long in the tooth, especially when you're a lighter weight class fighter. At some point, just like we talked about with Wonderboy, it's even worse when you're 115 pounds, 125 pounds, 135 pounds. It's even worse. So at some point, Marina Rodriguez, I don't see her maybe putting up the best fights of her career in the future. But for what she's got right now, present day, I think it's enough to give Iasmin Lucindo a humbling experience. If it stays striking battle, I got her. If Lucindo can't take her down and they're forced to strike, obviously striking battle, fine. Lucindo probably struggles a little more often than expected. Marina Rodriguez keeps it standing. Lands those bigger shots at altitude. A grappling heavy game plan is going to wear you out. So maybe I lose the first round. I got to win the second and the third, or just catch her clean and put her away. So I'll take the dog shot here. But yeah, of course, you're not going to love it. We know what we're getting ourselves into, but it's worthy of a play.
Yeah, I thought Lucindo looked really good. Obviously, last time out against Carolina, who had been making a bit of a career resurgence. And she 100% dominated that fight. But yeah, minus 175 against somebody who's fought for a title, fought 5 rounds, big spot. Like, it's a big kind of Marina. Kovalkiewicz had been there, but it's like we had seen, warts on her game for quite some time. And a lot of people thought she was going to completely retire. She had made a bit of a resurgence, but like there's still kind of the holes in her game there. Yeah, plus 150. I think you could do a lot worse than Marina Rodriguez. The defensive grappling, as you talked about, has always been an issue for her, but only taken down once against Jessica Andrade, who was able to get there, but getting a split decision there against somebody who is as physically domineering as Andrade is a decent look. And yeah, nobody that like Marina Rodriguez has taken down has been able to like throw outside of, I guess, Viana, but we know Viana. It's like you get outside of round 1 and he's kind of looking for the door a lot of the times, right? Yeah, when Marina I feel like maybe some of the submission attempts from Marina Rodriguez on the ground could cause a little bit of confusion. I think Lucindo has a big time ceiling moving forward, but this is a case of, minus 170 plus 150, maybe a little bit too much too soon. I'm with you on the dog shot on Marina Rodriguez. We got Cesar Almeida taking on Ihor Potieria, minus 350 for Almeida. Potieria can be had for plus 270. Do I think Almeida wins? Yeah, probably, because Potieria hasn't shown us any sort of grappling. Am I excited about betting a really, really flawed fighter in Cesar Almeida at minus 350 at the UFC level against anyone? And I've been a Almeida guy, and obviously last time out against Kopylov, it cost me money, but Potieria has not really shown us any sort of grappling capability. But my big question here is like, maybe Potieria is just slightly better. Like Kopylov had never shot a takedown in the UFC up until that matchup. Maybe Poteria's got a little bit better grappling. I don't know. There's a big question mark there, and I don't think I'm going to have the cojones, Cody, to pull the trigger on Potieria as an underdog here. But when I know that the ground game is so undeveloped for Cesar Almeida, it's tough for me to get to minus 350. I think from a betting perspective, it's dog or pass. But as I said, I'm too much of a coward to pull the trigger. What's your thought here?
I'm in. I think
taking the shot?
Matchmaking. Yeah, I'm taking Cesar Almeida.
Okay.
Ihor's a bum. Ihor is a bum. Oh yeah, I'm not in on that. I'm in on Cesar Almeida. I mean, first of all, guy's got to win. Oh, he's got to win over Alex Pereira. In case you did not know, Paul. In case you did not know.
I brought that up every other time he fought, and you picked it against him every single time. I mean, it was only 3 fights. We've split down the middle. It was against Bumka. That you had Bumka against him, which was kind of a bad look.
And then I took Kopylov, and Kopylov won. So let me say why I always bet against this guy, and now I'm on his side. Is that you say he has no grappling, and I disagree with that. It's that, yeah, he comes from a striking base, right? He beats Alex Pereira, similar to Alex Pereira. Once you transition over to MMA, nobody wants to stand with you, so they're all trying to take you down. And on the Contender Series, he got taken down 3 times. But you know what he did? Got back up to his feet, stayed sound, pretty decent defensive grappling, lands 71 significant strikes, wins the fight, triples him up, wins the fight. Debut in the UFC against Butka. I took Butka because Butka, former college wrestler out of Notre Dame in Ohio. I figured he would get the takedowns, and he did get the takedowns, 3 of them. But what does Cesar Almeida do? Solid defensive grappling, gets up back to his feet, beats this guy up, nice elbows against the cage, puts him away. So again, similar, if you want to use the common opponent of Alex Pereira, the big win, the why he's on this card in the first place, I think similar to Pereira is that, yeah, you're getting taken down early in these fights. It's his ability to stay sound, get back up, and then beat them off. Now he runs into Kopylov. Now you say Kopylov hasn't shot any takedowns in the UFC. Maybe that's fair. Maybe that's fair. Popolov spent like 8 months in Dagestan, training exclusively in the mountains, and had worked a lot on his grappling. I picked him. He got 5 takedowns. He also got a knockdown. Or sorry, he got 5 takedowns and a knockdown, and he damn near got murdered like 3 or 4 times. Like, he was shooting the most desperate takedown attempts and getting them. I know that's a bad look on Cesar Almeida, but he could not stand with Almeida. He was getting outstruck 58-41, got the takedowns, and then Herb would clap his hands like, stand up, just holding on to this guy because he does not want to stand with them. And Butka did not want to stand with them. And Lucas Fernando, they did not want to stand with them. But Ihor has shot effectively no takedowns. He has a 0% takedown accuracy because that's not his game. His game is to try to strike with you. And nobody to this point has actually done that with Cesar Almeida. So his defensive grappling, like, it's not great. It's obviously the hole in his game. Just like Wonder Boy, that's the path that you want to take against a high-level striker. But when you match him up against a guy that ain't going to do it, then right away, it's like, okay, sweet. Cesar's got lots that he can operate with. Even if Ihor chose to grapple with him, he's not as good as Kopylov. He didn't spend the time in Dagestan. He didn't wrestle in college like Butka. I would say that this is probably the worst wrestler that he would fight, even if that was a game plan. And so what Ihor's got to go out there and do is knock him out. And as we talked about in the main event, Pereira could lose to Khalil Rountree because it's 2 strikers. Well, that would be the same thing here too. Ihor does throw caution to the wind. He does got some heavy power. He's about a round and a half kind of guy. Like, if he's going to win, it's got to be in under 1.5. Outside of that, he just absolutely gasses. But him gassing coupled with a suspect chin, I'd take a Cesar Almeida. Dude got knocked out by Nikolai Negamarian, who is just not great, let's be honest. He got knocked out by Carlos Ulberg 2 minutes into the fight. And his fight with Rodolfo Bellato, he actually rocks Bellato. And then as soon as Bellato gets over the 1.5 rounds, Ihor completely gasses and Bellato knocks him out. So he got 3 knockout losses in the UFC. His chin's not good. His cardio's not good. And he's fighting a guy that is a very deadly striker who just wants to stand and bang. And they've presented Ihor as the idiot that's going to come out there and do that. So yeah, 350 as far as I'm concerned is not that bad of a price tag. But when you consider the whole striker versus striker angle and puncher's chance, blah, 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 and Ihor will come at you at hot fire, it's dangerous. But all the same, I think Cesar Almeida, they know that they've been doing him dirty by giving him guys that have just been clinging on to him, that they're finally giving him a proper matchup for what he wants to do, and that's have a 15-minute or less kickboxing match.
Okay. We move on down. We've got Alexander Hernandez taking on Austin Hubbard, -200 for Hernandez, +170 for Hubbard. Who you got?
Yeah, I think I'm going to take Hubbard, right? So with Alexander Hernandez, first of all, he's such a 50-50 guy. Half the time, he's not bad. Half the time, he's just atrocious, and you really can't depend on him. So if they're telling you that they want you to get him at favorite status, I really don't know that I can get behind that. He's not won back-to-back fights since he came into the UFC, right? He won his first 2 fights, knocked out Beneil Dariush, crazy. Beats Olivier Aubé-Mercier, a guy that went to go make $2 million in the PFL tournaments. Damn, did that age good. And then after that, it's been lost to Donald Cerrone, win over Francisco Trinaldo, who he robbed in Texas, where he's from, for the record. Lost to Drew Dober, knocked out, win over Chris Grutzmacher. Lost to Thiago Moises, win over Mike Breeden. Lost to Renato Moicano, lost to Billy Q, win over an aged Jim Miller, lost to Bill Algeo, lost to Damon Jackson. Overall, he's not really had that much success since he debuted in the UFC. He was a hotly hyped prospect, but now he's sitting with a 6-7 record overall. You know, he's almost 33 years old. I don't know that he's got the best days ahead of him. He's a coach at Factory X Muay Thai. He seemed to have been settled and really matured, but just dependable as a bet, not really. His 2 fights ago against Bill Algeo, right? Physically, he's way stronger than Billy, and he's just, more dynamic, more power. You would think that he's got a wrestling advantage as well. No, he gets outstruck 110 to 75. He got taken down. He got knocked down. Bill Algeo knocked him down. Bill Algeo took him down, and Bill Algeo put the significant numbers over him. His fight with Damon Jackson, he gets 3 takedowns by Damon Jackson. Took him down when he wanted to. He got outstruck by Damon Jackson. He rocked him. Most guys do, but most guys rock Damon Jackson and then knock him out. In this case, it's like he couldn't put him away, and wouldn't you know it, he starts to fatigue. He's so built up. He's so physical. He's tried fighting at 55. He's tried fighting at 45. He seems to be kind of lost within weight classes, but his cardio's just never been that good. His durability, really not all that good. His decision-making, really not all that good. And they're taking this physical specimen who's known to slow down the longer these fights goes, and they're giving him two things. Yeah, they're putting him at altitude, and they're giving him Austin Hubbard, who really has got nothing else going for him other than he's tough. He's tough, dude. That's it. That's it. Austin Hubbard is a tough bitch. When he wins fights, it's just outlasting his opponents. He's got quality wins over Mark Madsen, who took him down 8 times. He just kept getting back up and kept making him work. And all of a sudden, this Olympic silver medalist, or silver medalist or bronze medalist? I think it was a silver medalist. All of a sudden, Mark Madsen, it was a silver medalist because he didn't win. You win a bronze, you lose a silver. Remember that. Anyways, Mark Madsen takes him down 8 times, and he just outlasts this freak of an athlete, Olympic quality wrestler. His fight with Max Roshkov. Roshkov quite literally quits after the second round because it's like, I dominated him in the first. I took him down. I put him in all these bad spots. He just doesn't go away. And then it mentally breaks you. Roshkov, mentally fragile. He broke in that fight. His fight over Vince Pichel, I'll admit, you called that one, but it's like he gave him a dog-type performance. His fight with Kurt Holoba, he ended up getting caught in a submission. Then he comes back as an underdog against Michael Figlak. And like anything else that Hubbard does, he's just tough, man. He comes forward. You got to fight a complete 3-round fight. There's no having a great first and then slowing in the second and then needing to win the third round here. Because if that's the case, Hubbard's going to pull through. Now you put a guy like Hubbard who's trained his entire career at elevation in Colorado. You put him in Utah, he's fine. The style he fights, which is rugged, come forward, take a beating if need be. He's not a great striker, not a great wrestler, not a great grappler. He's just a tough dude. That at altitude, which he's used to, is a weapon, right? Hernandez, known for slowing down, known for mentally breaking. Yeah, and he's the favorite. He's super talented. Don't get me wrong. And I said he's a 50-50 guy because when he's on, god damn, Hernandez can go. But it seems like after a really hot UFC start, he really has faltered off. Whereas Hubbard's nothing other than tough, and at altitude, that makes him dangerous. He's the dog play for me.
Makes a lot of sense. I mean, the only thing I'll correct you on is that Madsen did get the decision victory against Hubbard, despite 8 takedowns. But round 3, Madsen was exhausted. So he won 20. But like in round 3, it was absolute dominance by Hubbard, who 5x'd him on significant strikes, hung around, but he couldn't stop the takedowns in the first 2 rounds. But Hernandez, I know he's trained in Colorado, but his cardio has never really seemed to get all that much better. He's got 1 win in his last 5. He's been fighting some decent level of competition, but that was against Jim Miller. Hubbard got 3 takedowns against Michael Figlak last time out. And we've never really, at altitude, it seems like the best way to beat Austin Hubbard is to, get takedowns and control him. The guy's durability, as you were talking about, is legendary. Hasn't, to my never been knocked out. So it could be bad round 1. I expect Hernandez to come out, have a good round 1. He usually does. Maybe land some big hands. But as this fight goes on, if Hubbard's able to just hang around, I feel like you'll see a bit of a changing of the tides. Probably a better live betting opportunity, but you know how these live betting opportunities go. Sometimes maybe Hubbard just goes out there and is incredibly competitive right out of the gate, and you never get the best price. You never get a better price than plus 170. So who knows? But definitely a fight I'm going to be paying attention to with extra attention to in the live market. But yeah, Hubbard will be the pick for me. In this spot, we got Tecia Pennington taking on Carla Esparza, minus 170 for Pennington, plus 150 for Esparza. I believe, Cody, your former rival, can we call Carla Esparza your former rival? You got into a fight with her on social media, if memory serves correct, at one point.
That's so long ago that
I know, but I never forget.
What you're talking about?
I never forget, Cody. I never forget these things. You and Esparza got into it. Great times. It's a retirement fight, I believe. She's a mom now. It's interesting. Tecia, Can she stop the takedowns? How is this fight going to play out? I mean, the over is juiced to over 2.5 is juiced to minus 600. I mean, usually they kind of like let those linger around like minus 450, minus 500. I don't know if I've seen too many at the UFC level get pushed all the way up to minus 600. It's going to come down to those first exchanges in the wrestling department. Do you think Carla is going to be able to take down and control Pennington, or do you think Tecia is going to be a little bit too fleet of foot and box her up from the outside?
Yeah, well, I mean, pre-fight retirements generally don't go well, but they have gone well a couple times. Robbie Lawler won his retirement fight. I think there was another one fairly recently. It could happen, and I can see Carlos Esparza going out there and getting the takedowns and controlling her. But yeah, this is another fight that I see probably lying closer to 50-50. That, of course, CF dot models being enacted on this one. I don't know that I would feel comfortable taking Tecia Pennington at the kind of favorite status she is. Minus 125, okay. Minus 135, okay. But yeah, no, she's not 2-1, but she's near-ish to 2-1, and I'm just not behind it. Keep in mind that this is someone else that has a family now and has a kid and has other things going on. Tecia Pennington, got married to Raquel, who's fighting on the card. So there's a lot of emotions there. I don't know. You're fighting on the card with your significant other, your kids in the crowd. You're a mom now. You've got life going on. And she took a gap, like she took a few years off, not quite 2 full years, but comes back and fights Tabitha Ricci. That's her comeback fight. It wasn't that she didn't look good, but it's the same problems with Tecia Torres always, okay? Is that you can take her down, right? She's very hard to get a hold of, but she only shows 65% takedown defense. So you shoot a couple takedowns, you can take her down. Ricci was able to take her down. She will outland you. She's got volume, but she doesn't got a ton of power. So in a lot of these spots, she might be landing the bigger punches. She might be doing some better work. But if you just hit one good shot, or you can get one quick little takedown, judges tend to not be so forgiving. I actually thought she beat Tabitha Ricci. A lot of people thought she beat Tabitha Ricci. She outstruck Tabitha Ricci. She only got taken down one time, but it's that control time. It's that time up against the cage. It's those slightly bigger, more eye-catching shots maybe being landed by Tabitha Ricci that get her the decision. So essentially, she's not won a fight since she beat Angela Hill, and that was over 3 years ago. In that Angela Hill fight, she also got taken down twice. She fought Brianna Van Buren, also known as Brianna Fortino now. She got taken down twice by Van Buren. Takedown defense in the last number of years hasn't been as good as it was in the early portion of her career. She's got interests outside of fighting. She's maybe slowing down a tad. When she was known as the tiny tornado, maybe it's just the tiny gust of wind at this point. And at some point, it's just like I can't get behind her as a massive favorite status. Esparza, I'm not the hugest Esparza fan. But from a style standpoint, yeah, if she just goes out there with, I've got nothing to lose, this is my retirement fight, I would like to go on a high note, I'm going to fight to my absolute damnedest to make my family proud. If she goes out there with just a absolute dog mentality, then she's had a lot of success with her wrestling in the past. She's coming off a loss to Zhang Weili. You're not going to hold that against her, but she got a takedown over it. She got 2 takedowns over Rose Namajunas, 2 takedowns over Yan Jinan, 5 takedowns over Marina Rodriguez, took Michelle Watterson down, 4 against Alexa Grasso, 4 against Verna Jandaroba. The only girl that she's not taking down is Tatiana Suarez. Everybody else, yeah. Claudia Gadelha took her down twice. Cynthia Calvillo took her down twice. Marina Moroz 6 times. Randa Marcos, a wrestler, 4 times. Lima 5 times. Esparza or Jacek once, and Rose Namajunas 5 times. Every single fight she's ever had, other than Tatiana Suarez, you can give her a pass on that, she's taking down her opponent at least one time. So her wrestling by division standards, as much as I've had beef with her in the past, Paul, it's about as top as it gets. She's won a world title on the merit of she can take you down. And Tecia Torres, her problem is she lands a ha 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 ha. But it's not those big shots. It's not I'm clearly dominating my opponent, who might just mix in a takedown or two and hold up shop for 2.5 minutes. Not only that, she's not just a one-dimensional wrestler. BJJ black belt, nasty rear naked choke on her. And in the past, in the early portion of her career, the Ian Jacek fight, that's why I was beefing her over. If you remember everything. She gets bopped up and she don't like she gets punched in the face, and there's a clear visibility of this has never happened to me before, and I am flustered. Since then, she's actually fought a lot of these fights like a dog. Yeah, you can say that the Rose Namajunas fight was boring, but she won a world title that night. Those other ones, like the Yan Jonan fight, who she knocked out Yan, she's just moving forward. She's slinging punches. She's not afraid to get hit and move inside the pocket because she's the shorter fighter, and eventually causes you to make some type of mistake, causes you to overextend, and then utilizes that wrestling ability. They're both getting a little bit older. They've both got interests outside of the cage. They're both getting to a point of their career where they're not reliable anymore. But one of them's actually got a plus money price tag associated with her that I would be willing to chase after. So I will take Carla Esparza and bid her farewell in her retirement after this.
So the beef is gone between you and Carla. Cookie Monster and Cody no longer enemies.
Do you remember? Do you remember what it was over?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I met her at this like event, and she's there with Felice Herrig.
Oh,
and I'm
you
doing
came on the show and said that she was really, really like sour because you were like trying to like.
Her manager was like, she only has one request. She'll do the interview. She only has one request. I'm like, sure. What's the request? He's like, that you do not bring up Joanna and Jacek. So I'm just like, who she just got smashed by. So I'm like, oh, she's that upset about it. But sure, you asked me not to ask the question. You say this is the only thing. I will abide by that. But I say to the guy, I said, would it be okay if I ask her for a fight prediction? You and Jacek was fighting Valerie Letourneau, and you remember how it was. We would get predictions for like the next 5 or 6 cards, and then you could just roll it on air as if it was new 3 weeks from now because you had a prediction. So I'm just asking her, who do you think's going to win this fight? Who do you think's going to win this fight? Who do you think's? And I asked the guy, he says, don't bring up Ian Jacek. I said, could I ask her a prediction, Ian Jacek Letourneau? He says, yeah, that would be fun. Just don't bring up like her and Ian Jacek. So I'm like, oh, okay, sure. So I complete this interview, and it's a good interview, and she's laughing and she's cordial, and then we're going through the predictions at the end of it, and I bring up Yen Jacek, and she just loses it. She doesn't lose it, she just gives me the death eye, and then just ends the interview abruptly, and then tells her manager, and then her manager's like, you can no longer interview Felice Herrig because Esparza's upset about something, sorry. He said it was a time constraint thing, but I'm not stupid, I could read between the lines. And then I mentioned it on the show, and she watched the show and commented in the section being like, you're an asshole, which is partially true, but only partially. So what am I supposed to do about it? He said I was able to ask the question, and she took it to heart. So then my thing after that is I wouldn't bash her, but I would be like, she's mentally fragile because it was like she lost and she couldn't handle it. It would like, it haunted her. It like kept her up at night. But the props that I gave to her 5 minutes before I just kind of semi-bashed her again is... she's put that in the past, man. She's a veteran now. She had multiple fights. Some of them you're going to win, some of them you're going to lose, and she's accepted that. And as a result, I feel like even though her striking is not great, she's way more willing to run inside the fire, get hit a few times, and uncork that right hand. As we outlined with her takedown numbers, it's amongst best of divisional history. I think if she's got one last hoorah, a girl that's also kind of nearing retirement, who also has a family, who also has been inactive, who also just got robbed on a split decision. Not also got robbed on a split decision, but literally is coming off a loss by a split decision in a return fight. Yeah, could Esparza not keep it close and keep it competitive and squeak one out on the scorecards? Absolutely. If she was the favorite, yeah, I'd have some reservations about it. But again, she's the underdog. It's a total dog or pass situation for me.
Yeah, someone who was taken down 10 times by Jessica Andrade and twice by Angela Hill. I mean, the Andrade fight was 6 years ago, but Hill was
the Hill fight's concerning.
It's a few years ago, and Esparza's wrestling is a totally different level. Even if it is, her last competitive MMA fight. Fair is fair. Plus 150. There is 100% a path to victory for Esparza. So I'm with you on that one. We've got a retread, a fight that was supposed to happen, got canceled. Ryan Spann taking on Oven St.Preux. Spann, a minus 240 favorite. OSP can be had for plus 205. You know what the books did to us, Cody? They chopped this number way down. We were talking about OSP being a live dog. OSP sub round 2. These were all things, a few weeks ago when this fight was originally supposed to take place. But I think at that time, OSP was over plus 300 on the money line. They obviously took a lot of action on it. And then now at minus 240 plus 205, it's I feel like a lot of the meat is off the bone. I do not like Spann at elevation by any stretch of the imagination. He struggled to go 15 minutes and slows down considerably in most of his fights as they get extended. But I feel like if this fight gets out of round 1, it's going to be an absolute stinker. It's weird that of all places, all cards that they could have put this thing, they slap it on like the early prelims of a fight at altitude when neither one of these guys was preparing for altitude. It's dog or pass, but I'm way less inclined to bet an OSP unless the props are just super spicy. But early indications are like people are betting that sub prop where they have been released, and everyone knows where the action's going to come in already. So it's unfortunate, but OSP will be the pick, but I like it less than I did, last time we broke down this fight.
I like it less because OSP was the one that pulled out a month ago with an illness, so too sick to fight, and then they rebook it 4 weeks later at altitude, and you're supposed to like it. But he was plus 240 the last time. What's he now? Plus 265.
I thought it was like
props have been.
There was like plus 300s available, buddy. Last time.
Oh, last time? Oh,
yeah.
Man.
I mean, even OSP 2 days ago was plus 270. Monies came in just recently, basically today.
I mean, we were picking them the last time, and I will pick them again this time, but I'm expecting an absolute greasy fight. This is quite literally the definition of dogger pass, because both guys have massive amounts of red flags. OSP, he's a lot older now. He's got a plethora of injuries. He fights about once a year, although this will be his second outing of 2024. He's another one of these guys that's falling into 50-50 range, right? Like when he shows up, that last fight against Kenny and Jakwu, not great, but he lands like 140 significant strikes. He landed a clean knockdown. He showed that he still had something left in the tank. And then his fight prior, knocked out by Felipe Lins in 49 seconds. He's tried to utilize his wrestling from time to time. His knees aren't quite what they used to be. His shoulder ain't quite what it used to be. He's got a long history of football then in college, right? Played for University of Tennessee, I believe, maybe. Yeah, I think it was University of Tennessee. Plays football, transitions, been fighting for now nearly 20 years, it feels like. The guy's been around the block, and he is banged up. But his thing is that he's ultra conservative. Like, he's not, other than the 143 significant strikes landed his last time out against Kennedy, he mostly just sits there and waits for that big opening. He's got big power. He doesn't overexhaust himself, and he's able to kind of just keep that pace. Similar to a Derek Lewis, is that he's seemingly gassed in the first, but he is equally as gassed later in the fight. The guy went 5 rounds with John Jones. In fact, he landed some decent shots against John for that time. I think that he can just conserve it himself at altitude, wait for either one of two things to happen. Ryan Spann to just get, explode forward and try to make a fight happen and he catches him clean, or Ryan Spann to overexert himself and tire out. But I got a little more faith in OSP to get the job done. The last time we picked it, it was exactly that. Is Ryan Spann seemingly got better skills. He's faster. He's a sharper technical striker. He's got better actual grappling outside of the Von Preux choke, of course. But he's got a little bit of quit in him. His last 3 fights, the Nikita Krylov fight, taken down, sub. I'm not going to say quit in that fight, but it was a little suspect. Started with Anthony Smith. His fight with Anthony Smith, loses the first round. In the second round, he drops him. Like, not drops him, but just absolute shelling. Smith's eyes swollen shut. He easily wins the round. It's 1-1 going into the third, and he gasses himself out. You go all the way back to his fight with Sam Alvey. He can't fight beyond 2 rounds. But his last time out against Bogdan Guskov, that was the eye-opener to me. You got a significant grappling advantage over Bogdan. He takes down Bogdan, and as soon as Bogdan gets back up, Spann striking, it's out the window. It's as if he knows he's chinny. It's as if he knows he doesn't want to get hit. And that's why he's trying to implement his grappling in the later stage of his career, is he's got durability issues, and it seems like he's aware of them. But the cardio issues are also a problem. His best path against Ovens would be take him down. That's way easier said than done. And even if you do take him down, then you got to put him away. If you don't put him away and the second round starts, what's the most tiring thing you can do in a fight is grapple, and grapple heavy, especially against a big boy like Ovens St.Preux, who fights at 205, but is also moonlit as a heavyweight a couple times in his career. The guy's big, thick man. Taking him down consistently and holding him down is going to be a problem. The second this guy takes one gasp of wind and puts his hands down, I feel like Ovens St.Preux just lands that one shot. He might be down 2 rounds and knock him out in the third, but I feel like he'll be live the entire time and just will at some point find the key and get the job done. So the illness a month ago is not great, but if you were very sick, you wouldn't be fighting a month later. It would be the kind of thing where it's like, I'm not good to go now. Run some IVs in you, run some fluids, take a few days, take a week, and get back in the gym, go light, and then go hard for 2 weeks and jump back into camp. Like, that's all I can hope. They're doing Spann a great disservice by putting him at altitude, and I think that's going to be the key to this fight, is that he always gasses out, and when he gasses out, he quits. Now he's at altitude, it should cause him to gas even faster, and therefore quit even faster. So I'll take OSP, but it could be the PRP pick because like there's not a ton of faith there, but I think he finds a way.
And finally, we've got Tim Dirty Bird Means taking on Court McGee, minus 200 for the Dirty Bird. Court McGee can be had for plus 170. I mean, the big thing for Court McGee, historically, it always been like that durability. The guy had already died twice, so in the octagon, he was impossible to get out of there. Obviously, that's changed a little bit. He's been knocked out twice in his last 3 fights. He is from Utah, so as an underdog here against Tim Means, who I think at altitude, I think his cardio has always been a bit of a question mark. Do you think Court has one last one in him? I took a little bit of plus 195 the other day. I think he does get outmatched in terms of, if this turns into a 15-minute striking affair between the two of them, I think it could be, that's Tim Means' path to victory. But can Court mix in a little bit of wrestling? There's enough. Both of these guys, it's good matchmaking because it's just like both of them are a little bit longer at the end of the line in their career. I'm willing to wager at decent sized dog money that McGee can just kind of edge this one out. I expect a close fight while this fight's standing. Maybe Court can get this fight to the mat and get a little bit of control time, make this a lot closer than the current odds suggest. It's going to be McGee for me. What about you?
Oh, it's me and McGee as well, brother. I think that This is an absolutely live underdog. So, yeah, he's the only guy on the card that's actually from Utah, which is a huge advantage. He's lived his entire life there. He's known as a cardio machine, probably because he's lived his entire life in Utah. So this is nothing new to him. He's another fighter that's nearing retirement, but being able to fight at home early on the card, get your friends and family there nice and early, get this thing done, and then enjoy the show. Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for Court McGee to go get a farewell type victory. What he still brings to the table, because obviously durability is diminished, striking is diminished, a lot of these things are diminished. He still is tough, and he does have that cardio that he's able to weaponize. This is a bold pick that you and I both got Court McGee. That's not super bold. More bold would be Court McGee by submission, if you can find a number on that. I think it's absolutely live in that Court McGee hasn't submitted anybody since, if I had to guess, like 2012, 2011. Yeah, 2011. He hasn't submitted anybody since 2011, but keep in mind, he is a BJJ black belt. He's a pretty tough guy. He's fought a lot of tough guys. He himself has never been submitted in his professional career, and he does have a couple decent submission victories. It's more so that, how do you beat Tim Means? You put pressure on this guy. You cause him to work. Dirty Bird's a fan favorite. Paul and I have loved this guy for a number of years because he's a smooth operator. He's got slick little striking, but he's always had durability issues. He's always had cardio issues. And I will not call him a quitter like I called Ryan Spann a quitter, but just like when he gets tired, he tends to give up submission victories to his opponent. And that's kind of been something that's plagued him throughout the course of his career. You can go back and all the way to his fight with Matt Brown back in the day. And it's a prime example. He's beating up Matt Brown early. Matt Brown just won't stop. Matt Brown keeps coming forward. As soon as Matt Brown takes his best shot and returns fire, Tim Means gives up a guillotine choke to him, right? He ends up losing his fight to Alex Oliveira, the rematch, on a second round submission. His fight was, Daniel Rodriguez. He starts off very well against Daniel Rodriguez. Second round, he gives up the guillotine choke. His fight with Kevin Holland, he starts off decent against Kevin Holland, got 2 quick takedowns, and then he gives up a Darce choke to Kevin Holland. His fight with Alex Morono, he starts off pretty good. He's beating up Alex Morono, and he takes him down 2 times, and then he gets caught in his second round guillotine choke. In every one of these submissions, it's him sticking his neck into the submission, be it off a bad takedown attempt or a bad scramble. When he gets tired, he leaves his neck exposed. Mm-hmm. Now, he could go out there and he could put a beating on Tim Means or on Court McGee because we know he is a much better striker. And if you go by Court McGee's 3 fights ago, Jeremiah Wells knocked out in a minute and a half. Fight after that, Matt Brown knocked out in 4 minutes. Oof. But that last fight against Alex Morono, yes, he loses. He took Morono's best shots. He outstruck Morono 60-38, and he got a takedown. He never stopped coming forward. He never stopped trying to fight. Arguably did enough to actually get some respect and win that fight. Unfortunately, the judges didn't agree. He needs to do the exact same thing against Means. You're probably going to get hit in the face a few times. Watch out for that knee up the middle. Watch out for the front kick. Watch out for a lot of these dynamic techniques that Tim Means can throw your way. The elbows. Oh my God. There's a reason they call him the Dirty Bird. But that being said, it's like I think if Court McGee can just outlast him through the first 3 or 4 minutes, maybe get an early takedown and really zap some of that energy, maybe cause Tim Means to either defensive wrestle or maybe Tim Means shoots a takedown on Court McGee. But you gotta make him work. You gotta make him work early. Don't stay at distance. It's got to be chest to chest. It's got to be inside that pocket. First round could be ugly. Second round will look a lot better. Third round, hell, you go Court McGee by submission. Try a Court McGee second round or third round finish. If you could got a very exotic book that could offer up a Court McGee third round submission or something like that, I do believe all of that will be on the table for play. He's going to probably get beat up pretty decent in that first 2.5, 3 minutes. He's just got to stick with it. And what better place to fight your heart out than at home in Utah in front of your friends and family? So let's do this thing, Court McGee. I'm in.
Yeah, McGee is plus. It's because it's like the curtain jerk, or you know how these things go. They take a while.
Slow to props, yeah.
Really slow to props. The only place that has it open, Bet Online, which opens up everything. They tend to be a little bit reserved. I was surprised that it's only 6-1, but I mean, I guess historically, 4 means by submission or losing by submission is just so common that they're pretty sharp over there. They know not to get killed on certain props. But yeah, like him by some, we'll see. We'll see when the other books open up. If someone lays, there will be better than 6-1, I believe, out there. Someone will offer an 8, maybe even a 10 probably won't happen, but there'll be an 8 out there. Submission round 320-1. I mean, it seems like Bet Online is reading the same tea leaves as you on that prop. They don't want to be taken on Court McGee by sub. And I can't blame them because I actually like that angle as well. Anyway, that is it. Or without further ado, before we go, Cody, hit him with the PRP.
Yeah, we got a lot of favorites early, and then we got a lot of dogs early, and then favorites late. But starting from the main event downwards, we're going to go with Alex Pereira to retain. We're going to go with Raquel Pennington retain. We're going to go with Jose Aldo, dog number 1, Kayla Harrison, Kevin Holland, Joaquin Buckley, Marina Rodriguez, dog number 2, Cesar Almeida, Austin Hubbard, dog number 3, Carla Esparza, dog number 4, Alvin St.Preux, dog number 5, Court McGee, dog number 6. Oof. So yeah, I know. It sounds crazy when you say it like that, but it's a 12-fight card. 6 underdogs. Jose Aldo is actually kind of an even money fight. Like, let's be real. Let's not lie to the people. It's not really an underdog. Mm-hmm. In fact, I'm betting him is because you're getting plus money, though. Bet that. Yeah, listen, this is a really fun card. It's a lot of high-level guys, so expect full performances from everybody. But altitude changes a lot of things. And we've seen this in cards in Denver. We've seen this cards in Utah. We've seen other promotions go to these places as well. Shows in Mexico City. Expect the unexpected on those cards. So 6 underdogs is not crazy to me because it's going to be a shit show and underdogs tend to win in those types of situations. So I'm in, Paul. I'm looking forward to it. I really am.
Yeah, we always think about that altitude affects the actual fight, the fight outcome. But think about trying to cut weight. That makes the weight cut that much more difficult if you're not prepared to exert yourself at 4,200
You don't
feet.
get as much oxygen back, so your 100%. Muscles don't recover the same, and you're already on a bad weight cut where you're dehydrated. And Raquel Pennington, Julianna Pena went on record to be like, I ain't going to 3 days out because I think it's all phony baloney. It's like, you believe that if you want, because I'm on the other side, but it's a real thing, man, for sure.
Oh, brother, I mean, I am by no means a world-class athlete whatsoever. Treated my body like crap for the last 25 years. And I may end up paying for it. I probably will. But yeah, I went out to a bachelor party about a year and a half, or maybe it was a year and a half ago. About a year and a half ago in Whistler. Or no, it was earlier this year. It was February. Went out to a bachelor party, Whistler. Probably similar altitude to this. And went out skiing. And the one thing I did find is that just I went skiing. I've been skiing in other places, but it's just my legs just never felt for the rest of the trip while I was out there. Just my legs were just sore. It's I never fully recovered. And then when I got on the plane, got back here, and it's just sitting on the plane, but just getting out of altitude, all of a sudden, all of the stiffness in my legs kind of went away. So I felt it differently in that respect. That was just my recovery time just seemed almost non-existent. It's just like I just wasn't recovering like I would if I went skiing pretty much anywhere else. So that was like kind of my first taste of like altitude sickness or whatever. These people are actually, they're world-class athletes, so it's a totally different ball game. But if you think it's phony baloney, there's plenty of scientists out there who will tell you you are wrong. Julianna.
Well, you experienced it, man. Think about it. Down at sea level, you were known as one punch Paul, meaning you only got one punch in you. But if you hit the guy, that could be it. But now you put you at altitude and you become half punch Paul, right? Where it's like you could still knock a guy out, but that punch's only going to go half the way, and he's going to have to meet you the other half and walk into it. You can still win, but your win condition is now split in half. Yep. What we're seeing about this card is that it's veterans out the wazoo. Rountree's 34, Pereira's 36, Pennington's older, Pena's older, Jose Aldo's older, Kayla Harrison is actually older. Roman Dolidze and Kevin Holland ain't prospects. Stephen Thompson's in his 40s. Marina Rodriguez is up there for her division. Cesar Almeida's not a young cat. Austin Hubbard and Alex Hernandez are both vets. Esparza is having a retirement fight against another girl that's been fighting in the UFC for over 10 years. Alvin St.Preux has been fighting in the UFC for over 10 years. Spann's been around the block. Tim Means and Court McGee, are you kidding me? It's all veterans.
Yeah, it's almost
you're going to rely on their weight cuts, and you're going to rely on their ability to perform at altitude. It's going to be dicey. And so betting all the favorites on this card is probably a recipe for disaster, although it's been a successful strategy on other cards this year. I just don't think this is one of them.
Yeah. If you lose on the prelims this week, walking papers. Contender series guys are coming to take your job. I feel like a lot of these veterans have been around for a long time, are probably getting paid 4 or 5 times the amount that they're going to give these replacements coming from contender series. It's a sad truth of the world we live in. The UFC engine, the train keeps moving along. And unfortunately, I think a lot of these, some of these aging veterans, this could be the last that we see from them if they lose on Saturday night. But that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed the show. For producer Jared and Cody Saftik, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.
Ow, ow, ow.